The tree of life. According to the Bible, the hope of fallen people is to approach or attain the tree of life. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. Proverbs 13:12. Thus, the Israelites of the Old Testament age looked to the tree of life as their hope. Likewise, the hope of all Christians from the time of Jesus until today has been to approach and partake of the tree of life. Blessed are those who wash their robes, that they may have the right to the tree of life, and that they may enter the city by the gates. Revelation 22:14. Since the ultimate hope of humankind is the tree of life, we can infer that the hope of Adam was also the tree of life. It is written that when Adam fell, God blocked his path to the tree of life by stationing the cherubim with a flaming sword to guard it. Genesis 3:24. From this, we can also deduce that Adam's hope before the fall was the tree of life. Adam was cast out of the Garden of Eden without having attained his hope, the tree of life. For fallen people ever since, the tree of life has remained a hope unfulfilled. What was the hope of Adam during the time he was immature and growing toward perfection? He must have hoped to become a man who would realize God's ideal of creation by growing to perfection without falling. The tree of life, in fact, symbolizes a man who has fully realized the ideal of creation. Perfected Adam was to be this ideal man. The tree of life thus symbolizes perfected Adam. Had Adam not fallen but attained the tree of life, all his descendants could also have attained the tree of life. They would have built the kingdom of heaven on earth. But Adam fell, and God blocked his path to the tree with a flaming sword. Ever since, despite the best efforts of fallen people to restore the ideal of creation, the tree of life has remained an unattainable dream. Burdened by the original sin, fallen people cannot complete the ideal of creation and become trees of life by their own efforts alone. For this ideal to be achieved, a man who has completed the ideal of creation must come to the earth as a tree of life. All of humanity must then be engrafted with him, Romans 11:17, and become one with him. Jesus was the man who came as this tree of life. The tree of life for which the faithful people of the Old Testament age longed, Proverbs 13:12, was none other than Jesus. Ever since God blocked Adam's path to the tree of life by guarding it with the flaming sword, the tree could not be approached without first clearing the path. On the day of Pentecost, tongues of fire descended upon the saints, and they were filled with the Holy Spirit. Acts 2:3-4. This event marked the clearing of the path and the moving aside of the flaming sword, which appeared as the tongues of fire preceding the rush of the Holy Spirit. It opened the way for all humanity to approach Jesus, the tree of life, and be engrafted with him. Nonetheless, Christians have been engrafted with Jesus only spiritually. This is why the children of even the most devout Christian parents still inherit sin, which must be redeemed. Even the most faithful saints have not been rid of the original sin, and thus cannot help but transmit it to their children. For this reason, Christ must come again on earth as the tree of life. By engrafting all humankind with himself once more, he is to redeem their original sin. Christians thus impatiently await the tree of life, which in the book of Revelation symbolizes Christ at his second coming. Revelation 22:14. The purpose of God's providence of salvation is to restore the failure to attain the tree of life in the Garden of Eden, by realizing the tree of life mentioned in the book of Revelation. Due to the fall, Adam could not fulfill the ideal of the first tree of life, Genesis 2:9. In order to complete the salvation of fallen humanity, Jesus, the last Adam, I Corinthians 15:45, must come again as the tree of life in the last days, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God did not create Adam to be alone. He also created Eve to be Adam's spouse. Just as there was a tree in the Garden of Eden which symbolized a perfected man, there also should have been a tree which represented a woman who has fully realized the ideal of creation. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, standing beside the tree of life, Genesis 2:9, was this tree which by fulfilling its good purpose represents the ideal woman, perfected Eve. The Bible refers to Jesus using the metaphors of a vine, John 15:5, and a branch, Isaiah 11:1, Jeremiah 23:5. Likewise, to give us a hint about the secret of the human fall, God provided the symbolism of two trees to represent perfected Adam and Eve.